is certainly the first of several informational hearings on a very, very important topic, high-speed rail. On behalf of the committee, I want to extend special thanks to the high-speed rail team, who we're going to hear from today. They're going to provide us with an overview of their draft Small Business and Disadvantaged Business Enterprise program. I understand they've been working diligently on this draft plan to ensure that small businesses, including women, minority, and disabled veteran businesses, are fairly represented on this very major and significant infrastructure project. We look forward to hearing about the particulars of this important draft document, as well as an opportunity to hear from you, to get your inputs and to engage in a live discussion with the High-Speed Rail Authority about what we perceive to be the positive and negative points of this proposed plan before the January 16th deadline. And again, I think this is a chance for us to create some light, not heat. We certainly want this project to be successful if it moves forward. And we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to participate in the best ways possible. So we're going to shift right to our witnesses. With us today, we have Chris Ryan, who's the Chief of Staff and Small Business Liaison for the High-Speed Rail Authority. Also with us is Patricia Padilla, Project Administrator of the California High-Speed Rail's Small and Disadvantaged Business Development Program, and Ms. Olivia Fonseca, who has been certainly a friend for small businesses for many years, who I've worked closely with. She's the Project Manager for the Authority's Small and Disadvantaged Business Program Development. So let me ask those witnesses to join us at the table. There will be an opportunity for the audience to raise questions, so I would encourage you to keep notes, and you'll have a chance to make your point. We want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be heard. And with that, I will turn it over to our panel. And Chris, you may want to go first. A little closer, we can't hear you. Yeah. Okay, try it now.
Thank you, Senator Price. Chris Ryan, Chief of Staff for the California High-Speed Rail Authority. First, wanted to thank you for the opportunity to meet with you today and provide the information relative to our draft small business plan. And with me, I have, as you said, Pat Padilla and Olivia Fonseca. And what I'd like to do first is go through some talking points relative to our small business plan, and then open it up to questions. Pat Padilla will have some technical comments to make, and Olivia probably will have some follow-up questions as well. Okay. California High-Speed Rail Authority's Small Business Program update and where we are as far as next steps. The Authority is required by its current funding agreements to ensure that small and disadvantaged businesses and enterprises are offered every opportunity to participate in the Authority's federally assisted contracts. The Authority is additionally charged to meet the state regulatory and executive orders to ensure that small businesses, inclusive of disabled, veteran businesses, enterprises, and disadvantaged businesses, and micro businesses have equally viable means of participating in the Authority's contracting opportunities. Hereafter, the businesses identified will be referred to as small businesses for purposes of the Authority's small business and disadvantaged business entity programs. Enhancing opportunities for small businesses to participate in the Authority's contracting process is good business. The overall project small business goal is 30%, to be achieved through the utilization in any combination at any level and any tier. Firms who are identified and certified as small businesses. The 30% overall small business goal will be passed on to the prime design builders and contractors to use small business contractors and subcontractors and make efforts to the overall goal. Since last year, the Authority submitted its draft small business program plan to the Federal Railroad Administration for pre-approval in August of 2011. In September 2011, the FRA granted pre-approval on the draft plan and directed the authority to engage in a 45-day public comment and facilitation process. Basically, we're receiving comments from the public and stakeholders and various interested groups. The draft plan includes the 30% small business goal, mandatory outreach by primes competing for design-build contracts, development and implementation of a design-builder small business plan, guidance on making good faith efforts to meet the goal, small business participation data gathering, reporting processes and standards that capture all tiers of contracted firms. The authority's draft small business program plan incorporates some of your Senate bills 733 and 734 suggestions, incorporating strategies for ensuring that the participation of California certified small, disabled veteran and micro businesses in contracts awarded by the authority.
Did you say micro also?
Yes, and micro. Yes. With state or federal funds during all phases of the project. Additionally, all bidders' conferences convened by the authority will include a presentation of the plan and the state's small business participation goals. The authority shall request a representative of the Department of General Services to attend all bidders' conferences. In a letter dated September 15, 2011, the FRA directed the authority to ensure the final small business program plan be presented to the FRA for approval. In addition, the FRA directed the authority to complete an availability and disparity study to determine the appropriate level of disadvantaged business enterprise participation on the federal aid contracts, and develop a business development program that would assist small businesses participate on the authority contracts. The authority requested that the FRA grant funding authority to implement and administer the study and business development program. And we are currently in conversation with FRA on approval of those grant funds to be used for that purpose. On November 3, 2011, the authority presented 2 resolutions to the board: approval for the Chief Executive Officer to sign the authority's small business policy, and authorization to enter into the public comment period. The board approved the small business policy and recommended that the public participation period be extended due to the holiday schedule, and also to foster additional comments and participation. The board also asked...
And that was the extension to the 16th, is that correct?
Yes, January 16th. The board also asked that the authority obtain FRA concurrence on the extended comment period, which they did. The FRA concurred with the recommendation. The public facilitation process will end on January 16, 2012. Following the public comment period, the authority will review and fully consider the comments received through this process for incorporation into the plan. The plan will then be prepared for formal board adoption. Upon the authority's board of directors' approval, the authority's small business program plan will be issued to FRA for formal approval. The small business policy and draft plan are on the authority's website. To date, the authority has hosted 2 of 3 public forums in California to enhance access for the public to provide their comments on the draft small business program plan. The first was held in San Francisco on December 1st, 2011. The second in the Central Valley was held on December 13th, 2011 in Merced, in conjunction with the authority's board meeting. The third is scheduled for January 12th, so next week, in Los Angeles at the LA Metro office. And there is a flyer in the packets that are available today. Email blasts have been sent out to over 24,000 small businesses and related organizations announcing the public facilitation period and the public venues. To date, the notification has occurred 6 times, and we've communicated with more than 9,000 email blasts. Were issued to partners and members of the community. Approximately 100 firms attended the San Francisco venue, and 30 firms in Merced. The public has also has direct access to the authority's website, which enable them to submit written comments directly. Other available options are to submit comments by mail, email, or directly at those venues. As of December 30th, 102 written comments by draft on the small business program have been received, and overall project have been received. The 3 primary comments are to characterize the 3 various comments. How does one get a contract with the authority design builder? The second is separate the 30% goal for each small business group. And 3, how do you count small business participation on the contract?
Could you repeat those again? And these are the questions that you've received most frequently to date and comments on the plan, correct?
Exactly.
Could you just restate those again for us?
So, the three most received comments and questions relate to: how does one get a contract with the authority or design builder? Number 2, separate the 30% goal for each small business group. And 3, how do you count small business participation on the contract? In addition to the public venues, the authority has met with executive and members of the Association of Professionals and Construction, which includes Diana Lacombe, Fred Jordan, Paul Guerrero, Marvin Dean, and Eddie Lau. The authority has also met with Rich Dryden of the DVBE Alliance, John Hernandez of the Central Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Dr. Washington of the NAACP, California Rural Legal Assistance, Fresno Convention and Visitors Bureau, Tate Hill, and the Tate Hill of the Fresno Black Chamber of Commerce. Discussions have been constructive, and positive input has been provided to improve the draft small business program plan and other considerations for the project's employment opportunities. FRA recently requested that the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act dollar amounts expended with small, disadvantaged, and disabled veteran businesses be provided. The report indicated that from September 1, 2010 to September 30th, 2011, the authority expended $58.6 million, of which $4.1 million, or approximately 7%, was paid to small businesses as defined. The authority awarded $2.3 million, or approximately 34% of state-funded in state fiscal year 10-11 to small and disabled veteran businesses. We are glad to say that the authority's efforts last fiscal year were recognized by the Department of General Services by receiving 2 awards during the State Agency Recognition Awards event in November. The awards were for improving small business and DVBE participation from 2.9 in fiscal year 9-10 to 34.16 last fiscal year. The 31% increase shows that we take serious the inclusion of small and disabled veteran business participation in our state-funded contract opportunities.
And what areas were does that represent? What areas of activity, that 31%?
Is primarily
professional services, or
professional services and IT services.
State-funded.
State-funded, right? The state-funded.
Yeah, continue.
In the interim of obtaining FRA formal approval of the Small Business Program Plan, the authority will implement the Small Business Program Plan best practices through the initial release of the Phase 1 design-build process, the RFQ and the RFP process. Efforts to engage diverse small businesses on the project include: the authority released a request for expression of interest with a streamlined response process for small businesses that attracted several hundred certified small businesses. This process has served well in establishing a strong pool of diverse, available small businesses. The authority conducted industry forums this year in Los Angeles, in April, in Fresno, in September, attracting a total of nearly 2,500 participants in the events that included an overall program and procurement update, as well as met the prime's components. To provide teaming opportunities for small businesses looking to subcontract with larger design-build firms, as well as large firms seeking subcontractors. Ongoing presentations, meetings, and coordinated efforts to highlight contracting opportunities within the high-speed rail project throughout its publications, fact sheet, outreach forums, website, and other media. The authority received community support in establishing the 30% small business participation levels and comments to the small business program. We want to thank the Association of Professional and Contractors, California Small Business Association, and the other business community organizations for their support and assistance to increase business participation on our contracts. With that concludes formal remarks. I'd like to open to questions, or Pat, if there's anything else.
Why don't we go into next panel as well?
Well, thank you, Mr. Ryan, and thank you, Senator Price, for inviting us to present. I'm very pleased to be given an opportunity to give some of the highlights. Mr. Ryan reported pretty extensively on the efforts undertaken thus far to ensure that the public does, in fact, have ample opportunity to provide comments, and written comments are being provided via email. They can do it by mail, by the website, so there are a number of...
Do we have a handout with the site?
Yes, we would have a handout, and plus we also brought flyers for the upcoming listening session that will be conducted in Los Angeles, and we will provide those shortly after the presentation. But I'd like to just take this opportunity to highlight a few of the major components of the program. The draft program, as it stands now, basically formally adopts the policy adopted and approved by the authority's board to include a goal of 30% small business participation based on the defined groups that were identified by Mr. Ryan that make up the small business program. That is inclusive of disadvantaged businesses, DBEs, inclusive of DVBEs, disabled veteran business enterprises, inclusive of all small business in conjunction with micro businesses. So most definitely that is the strategy moving forward to ensure that all businesses have ample opportunity to participate on this major infrastructure project. The other components of this program, because of the nature of this program, will include a number of design build awards. We are anticipating up to 5 different design builders that will be likely to be under a joint venture opportunity that will be building in this infrastructure project. And under a design build delivery method, there are a number of opportunities to ensure that small businesses have an opportunity to participate. But the only way that we can ensure success that these are accomplished is to write very distinct requirements for the design builder to ensure that they comply with. So the selected design builder will in fact have to develop a performance plan that outlines their efforts to ensure that all businesses are seen to be provided viable and meaningful participation on this project.
Now, is that something new, or is that the policy of the authority to date?
This will be new because this will be the authority's first design build project. We have a strategy that's included in your project that outlines all the requirements that the design builder will have to undertake, including hiring an individual or a consultant to basically make this a very serious component of their delivery of the project. And that they must conduct quarterly meetings with the small business community. They must identify small business opportunities. They must hold different venues and forums. They must provide training to build capacity of the small business community. They must conduct needs assessments of the existing businesses that are participating under the program to ensure that if there are areas that are identified that they need to improve to build their capacity to be awarded additional contracts or successfully complete the work that was assigned. All of those efforts must be defined in their performance plan. They're required to annually provide updates to that plan or more frequently if schedule adjustments are made. In addition to that, they are monthly having to transparently report their success of utilization. So while a design builder may make a commitment at the inception of the project that they will in fact meet these goals and will embrace these goals seriously, we will, and at the request of Mr. Ryan, wants it on the website. So it will be posted on a monthly basis on the website what their success record truly is for the small business program.
And what kind of sanctions are being proposed for those who don't meet these very laudable goals?
What I will say is they will I don't know that we have very strict sanctions other than a breach of contract at this point that will be applied.
That's pretty serious.
But that's very serious, yeah. Correct. So this area or this component of the program that will be applied to the contract will receive equal weight in the evaluation of their determination of their success on this project in moving forward. So compliance reviews will be conducted by the authority to ensure that oversight and compliance is being met by the design builder and their lower tiers. Under design build, the nature of the size of this contract will mean that their first tier subs are considered mini primes. There will be second, third, and fourth tier subcontracting opportunities on this project. We want to ensure that all levels, all tiers are actively participating and understand what the design builder obligations are relative to this program. Okay. The components of the program will also include prompt payment provisions and monitoring of that component of the law. In addition to that, we will have substitution requests for additions and termination clauses that will have to be reviewed and approved by the authority before any replacement is authorized to commence on the project. So there are a number of components that are being integrated into the program. In addition to that, we are proposing a business development component, which will afford opportunities and additional resources to build capacity in bonding and insurance, and in other areas that small businesses need to successfully complete a project of this size. So those are areas that are currently being developed by the authority as a meaningful component.
And you're proposing to do these programs in conjunction with other agencies? The bonding effort, for example, are you starting from scratch to provide the kind of access that's so important, or what's the strategy?
Well, actually, Senator, we are currently meeting with both private and public sector agencies as well as private sector clients that are, not clients, but contractors that are currently providing these important services to evaluate what the best method moving forward would be in developing those programs and making these resources available. We will be signing a number of memorandums of understanding with definitive goals and objectives within our agencies, but it's most important that we're working with the grassroots and community-based organizations and other private sector firms that have been very successful in these areas.
Thank you.
That would conclude our presentation at this time. Other than to highlight that the proposed bills, Bill 733 and 734, that you had authored, I reviewed that plan in helping the authority develop this plan. And I had a checklist. And in almost every instance, I think we've incorporated every component of your legislation that was being proposed. In inclusion of micro businesses, the adoption of a plan, your target was July. We will definitely be in position to have a program approved and move forward in administering and implementing the program. I don't believe there is any area that we identified that could not be met at this time. I'm looking at Olivia because we're working with that.
Yes, well, Olivia, she's a source, so we all rely on her frequently. Ms. Fonseca?
Yes, thank you very much, Senator Price, for inviting the authority and welcoming me back to present to you my passion for ensuring California small businesses have opportunities in our public works projects. What I want to add to what's already been said is that we are very strong in ensuring that there is a workforce component to this project. Just recently, we met with the U.S. Department of Labor, staff from the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Program in San Francisco, to enter into a partnership with the U.S. DOL to ensure we have with our design builder a component that has local interests in hiring, again, their workforce from the local area. The U.S. DOL has agreed to work with us in forming an oversight committee.
I'm sorry, which organization?
The U.S. Department of Labor, Office of Federal Contract Compliance Program, San Francisco office. They have agreed to work with us, and we're a year out from construction, but to work with us now to form a committee to have an oversight composed of local community-based organizations, the Employment Development Department, labor groups, and others like the Workforce Investment Board to assist not only the authority, but most importantly the design builder in finding the workforce that they're going to need to build this infrastructure. So we are very serious, again, in ensuring not only that we meet small business goals, but we also meet the minority and women hiring goals based on the different trades and crafts that will be utilized on this project. Mm-hmm. So with that, I think that we've presented an overview of our draft program plan, and we're open to questions.
Well, we will. I've got a few questions, and I know we've got some questions from the audience, but let me just sort of ask again, as a kind of big picture. Many folks in the audience and probably viewing us have had some negative experiences with Caltrans and in state contracting. What can you say to reassure those here that this project is going to be administered differently, that there's a different kind of a mindset involved, and that there's going to be some real substantive changes that are going to be reflective in assisting small, medium-sized companies get work? What's going to be different about this?
Can I mention one of them? One of the most substantive changes is the transparency and the ongoing monitoring effort of oversight of the program and the reporting. We will be tracking on a monthly basis. The State Department of Transportation, Caltrans specifically, does not look at the actual utilization or attainment towards meeting those goals and objectives until the end of the project. This project approach is very different. We will require them to submit monthly reports, and break down their commitments based on dollars actually paid. So you're looking at actual attainments, not commitments any longer. And those will be posted on the website. When you are able to, I very readily, both the community, contracting community, is readily able to identify the current utilization, and it's at the attention of everyone. The success typically is that if there is an area of deficiency, they will remedy it. And one of the other areas that this program is developing is a small business advisory that will assist us to achieve those goals. And there will be a number of partnering agencies in conjunction with organizations that represent a number of members in the contracting community, specifically minority and women contracting community, to ensure that we enlist their assistance in moving forward. In addition to that, there is a technical assistance business development component that is not a standard necessarily on every mega-sized project that we are also introducing to ensure that we're able to build the capacities of these firms to successfully complete the projects that they're assigned, in addition to seek more work.
And I would like to add that the other part of this program that we have is in the plan is a component on the design builder's provision. The authority has taken the position that it cannot meet the goal without the design builder's involvement, and they have a key component in the provisions to actually identify all the steps that they are going to do that we're going to monitor in compliance with meeting the overall goal. So the fact that they will have to tell us specifically what they are going to, what activities that they're going to be providing through the life of the contract will be what we will be measuring, as well as the community will be measuring in their success of this project. So the onus is being switched over to the design builder.
Okay. We've been joined by my colleague, Senator Mark DeSaulnier, and I'll give him a chance to collect his thoughts. I do have another follow-up question. There was some reference to the disparity study that's being conducted. Could you give us a little more details on that, the status of that, and who's doing it, and when it's going to be completed, and once completed, what we hope that will provide?
Yes, as mentioned earlier, on September 15th, the Federal Railroad Administration directed the authority to complete an availability and disparity study. And we did agree as the authority to complete the study. However, we did ask for some financial assistance to complete the study. We were given 1 year from September 15th to complete the study. FRA has been favorable in our request to provide us with the authorization and the authority to use existing resources to enter into a contract with a consultant to complete this study. So we are waiting for the formal approval from FRA so we can engage in that procurement of a consultant.
Now, our plans to go out to bid on that again? I know there were some concerns.
So I was just going to say, so once we do receive the funding authority, we will enter into either a small business option where we may be able to contact certified small businesses in the state of California that provide those services and ask them to submit their proposal, or we may enter into information for bid procurement opportunity to see if there is, again, small businesses in the state of California that can compete and be awarded this disparity study.
And so we're hopeful that study, once approved, would be completed by when? And
our schedule will be very tight for the consultant, as we have been directed by FRA to have it completed from 1 year from September 15th. We are hoping that we can have the study. There's two pieces to the study. One is the availability to determine in the state of California how many minority women and certified disadvantaged business firms exist that and can compete in a federal railroad project. The second piece of the study is the actual disparity to determine if there has been any disparity in the awards of past contracts and what remedies the authority may use in avoiding any future disparate treatment of contracts in the future awards. So what we'll be asking the consultant to do is to first identify the availability of minority women DBEs, and we're going to put a very tight schedule of at least 4 months from the date of execution to define that availability. Concurrently, to work with the authority and our our subcontractors and consultants to establish if there is any disparity in the award of past contracts and identify those remedies. So the schedule, that we really want, first of all, is the availability component, and the study will be, and availability will be based on statewide information.
Okay. Mr. Ryan, you mentioned that to date there seem to be 3 or 4 questions that kind of keep coming up. How you get a contract, and I forgot the other 2. But what's the agency's response been to those repeated questions about process and substance?
Yeah, at this point, we are taking the comments in, and we're looking at all the comments, and then we're working internally to see how we can adjust the program to answer those questions. So some of the questions will require us to work with FRA from some technical guidance. Some of them are internal, and some of it is just being better at getting information out and available to the people who want to do business with the High-Speed Rail Authority. So we're in that process of collecting that information, and by the late January, we should be in a position to provide technical assistance to them. So.
Okay. Senator Desaulniers?
No, I just want to thank you for your leadership, and I'm here to listen, and I apologize if I'm sort of in and out to other commitments while the hearing's going on.
Okay, yeah, we've several members have some conflicts. We do appreciate your presence and your leadership on this. Yeah, you've done that before. There was some discussion about or questions I've been heard about the contracts that are currently out, and I understand it's $1 billion or so in contract dollars that are out currently. Is that accurate? Yeah, and I guess the question is, whatever that number is, any efforts to hold current contractors more compliant, make sure there's more compliance with the efforts associated with minority and small business participation? Or are we just going to try to move forward? Any efforts to try to twiddle with what's in the pipeline currently?
Both. I think the short answer to your question is both. I mean, we have existing contracts. Many of those contracts will expire in this fiscal year. And so we are working at collecting data from those existing contractors, and we are disseminating our new policy and our program plan to them. So we are working to address, to make them compliant with our new plan. Our procurement going forward, so for example, right now we're in the process of reviewing RFQs for our construction package that will happen later this year. We're in 2012 now. And we are applying our new program plan to that. And so going forward, they will have to comply with those programs. So the answer to your question is both. And I believe the amount of contracting is less than $1 billion. I don't have that exact figure with me, but if you would like to have that, we can get that for you.
Yes, I think it would be very helpful. Okay, we're going to take some questions from the audience. I'm going to ask you to form a line here. You can have 2 at a time at the table, and if you want to pose a question or make a comment, I'm going to ask you to limit yourself to maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and I hope we can accommodate everyone. Again, the purpose of this hearing is to provide information on the proposed business plan that the High-Speed Rail Authority is proposing to adopt. There is a comment period open now, and so we are encouraging individuals to express their concerns, seek additional information. If you'd like some clarifying information, now is the time. It's a good time to do it. Let me ask you, before we take the first, may I take the first 2? Please come up to the seat. Yes, just have a seat. I'm going to ask you to identify yourself and, again, to keep your comment or statement or question to a couple of minutes. Let me just ask our guest while you're here. The deadline that we've seen is January the 16th, which is Martin Luther King holiday. So I presume we're going to extend that to the 17th. We don't want folks showing up not being able to submit or making calls. Is there going to be some adjustment on the due date?
Yes, we recognize after we stated that it was January 16th that it is a state holiday. The options that we have, of course, our fax machine is operating 24/7. You can submit comments through email, and the email address is also posted on the website, as well as provide direct comment on our website without even having to, email or fax or mail. So there are several options to submitting the document. And of course, we will accept comments afterwards. We don't have a very hard deadline, but we do need to identify a time frame that we can respond to FRA.
Okay. Okay, we're going to ask witnesses to be brief, concise, and to the point. If you can identify yourself, if you're with an organization or a business, and to state your piece.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Rich Dryden, Executive Director of the California Disabled Veteran Business Alliance. And Senator, thank you very much for your strong support for veteran issues, disabled veteran issues specifically in the past. We have a number of comments that we've already discussed with high-speed rail, and those will be provided in the public comment period. But I just wanted to make a couple general comments. One, we began the process of testifying and being involved back in the first meeting of 2011, and at that time the intent was to bring the high-speed rail dollars into the state and use the California small business DVBE programs as the major participants under the small business program. Our first comments on that were we recommend the following business goals be set for the funding of high-speed rail contracts: 35% small business, 5% DVBE, and we noted that the state program for small business is 25%, but since federal disadvantaged business enterprise, most of which are small businesses, may not have a goal achieved, so the 10% increase will help the state keep those DBE businesses active in this huge project, and we support that. However, I just must note that now that we've kind of washed down the small business program with a 30% participation, that the smallest group in there certainly is the DVBE group, of which we represent 1,200 certified businesses, and it would be very easy for them to get lost. So we're of the impression that 3% DVBE participation shall be a piece that would be put in all of the small business programs. Otherwise, we'll fall out of it. And I think that's something that needs to be considered in the entire process as we go through these huge contracts. Thank you.
Okay. Any comment on that?
I will comment on that. And thank you, Mr. Dryden, for coming in and also sharing and expressing the Alliance's comments. As Mr. Dryden's indicated, we did meet about a month ago, and his concern regarding setting a specific goal within the 30% for disabled veteran business participation was shared with the Federal Railroad Administration, as we had received preliminary direction from FRA that there will only be one goal, and not at this time divided into different small business categories, unless we had evidence which includes the completion of an availability and disparity study. But FRA will be looking into the matter of seeing if there's a possibility to separate the overall goal into different categories.
Okay.
And of course, disparity studies normally don't look at the DVBE picture as far as a disadvantaged business enterprise.
Thank you, Senator Price. My name is Abdul Rahim Hamid. I'm the National President of the Black Contractors Association. And basically, I'm here to express our concerns at the gate. I think one of the things that we want to follow and track is walking the walk. We'd like to know from the California High-Speed Rail, what is the staff makeup in terms of diversity? Too often, we don't see African Americans participating in employment. Workforce utilization is very important. If you're going to award these contracts to these contracts on a no-bid, best value, CM multi-prime agreements, one of the things that we want to know is, are they participating in hiring African Americans in their staff and consultant levels of participation? And to date, we're not very familiar with any engagement of African Americans. I don't want to rehash what's already been hashed over, but those are the things that we're holding accountable. The other thing is that the San Joaquin Valley Regional Conference is going to be on the 18th and the 19th, where we will address more of these issues. We're very concerned with our chapters in Fresno and Los Angeles and across the state that our African American contractors get involved and engaged. And it's a good, listen to Mrs. Padilla, I think it's a good approach for the primes to have someone hired outside of their Girl Fridays to do good fake efforts, that they're going to outsource
good fake, I like
good
that.
fake efforts. to outsource the community outreach efforts, because that means you hold more accountability to those primes or those consultants.
So what would you suggest? What's a better way of creating some accountability?
I think what we've done before, and I've been around this dance for 30 years with the National Association of Black Contractors, you ask the prime contractors to put out an RFP to hire someone outside of their staff to do the community outreach and engage these contractors. That's their full-time job. They're not doing, they're not evaluating plans or anything else. They're just focusing on getting the small business community involved. So I think everyone that is going to benefit economically needs to be engaged. And the last thing is that we're going to, under the Freedom of Information Act, we're asking for public the workforce utilization report from anyone that's doing any business with the High-Speed Rail Authority. That's from Padilla on down. We want to know that African Americans are on their team. I'd like to be very comfortable knowing that when I walk into a room that I'm represented in terms of the dollars from the gate. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any comments about the concern about engagement and involvement?
No, I believe that what he sees that we are moving towards the approach to identify a firm to have the capacity to ensure that they have a background in both construction and in small businesses to ensure that there is success there and that there is a commitment. I appreciate the fact that we do get that level of input and feedback from the contracting community, that they too see that this will be a key component to the success of this program. Secondly, in terms of the minority participation, I mean, if he's asking about my firm specifically, I would be very happy to share that. I'm very committed to diversity in my workforce as well as in the advocacy work that I've been doing. And I've been an executive director for small business programs independently for 17 years, and prior to that as an executive director of the MTA, and former to that the HR director of human resources for MTA. So the commitment I personally have to diversity and the passion that I have for this kind of work is very significant, and this is what I've elected to do. In terms of the...
How about the notion of identifying one person with responsibilities for nothing but kind of oversight and review? And I thought I understood that to be a part of this business plan. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit, expound on it?
Design bill provision. And I'll add to what was already mentioned. It is part of the design build provision in the program plan that the design builder, each one, will have to hire a consultant to provide that outreach, technical assistance support, and troubleshoot, or better known as be an advocate for the community, minority women business community on that contract. So it is clearly one of the innovations of this program plan and best practices that this program plan brings, and we know we are excited about the delivery of that component.
That's good.
Right. Thank you. Any more questions? Room for two more up here, please.
My name is Paul Guerrero. I'm representing La Raza Roundtable of California.
I'm sorry, which organization?
La Raza Roundtable. We have a significant membership within the area of the route of the train. In fact, the chair of our board lives in Fresno, and I'm the legislative chair, and I live in Stockton. So,
right.
We would endorse separating the DBE program from the small business program. They're two separate programs. One's a federal program, one's a state program. Let's keep it that way. Let's pull the DBE program out and run it as a program. Recently, the Pacific Legal Foundation sent a letter to the high-speed rail endorsing a race-neutral program, and I would suggest that we have nothing right now, so let's start tomorrow with a race-neutral program. Let's get the disparity study done. When the disparity study is completed and it shows there is a disparity, we can switch that program to a race-conscious program. And I would also suggest that let's not do a statewide disparity study for a train that's going to be built or a route that's going to start in the Central Valley and stay there for many years. When we get down south, we can do one for LA and San Diego, but anything we do now will be a waste of money and will be useless by the time we get down there. So I would suggest we do a local disparity study, we can complete it much faster, and we can move this program to a race-conscious DBE program, because if we stay in with the small businesses, guess who's going to get all the work? It's not going to be people of color. It's going to be the white small business guy who's going to get it. So we need our own program. We need a DBE program, and I urge you.
Any comments about the ability or desirability of breaking that out?
Okay. First, let me address the current draft small business program plan is in compliance with Title VI, which is the assurance that the contract activity will be awarded and opportunities will be granted regardless of race, color, or national origin. So it is considered a race-neutral program. The race-conscious component that Mr. Guerrero was mentioning is when the authority finds that there is disparate treatment and contracting activity to minority and women businesses. So that is a reason, too, that we need to complete a disparity study to determine if there is disparate treatment and activity in the awards of past contracts, and, of course, remedy those activities in future contracts. So the other piece that Mr. Guerrero mentioned is having a regional disparity study. The Federal Railroad Administration has indicated that this project is considered a statewide project because businesses come throughout the entire state. It will not be a project that only businesses from the Central Valley will be competing. So the study would need to consider the fact that the opportunities exist regardless of where the business resides or where their principal office is. So it can be from the borders of Oregon to the borders of San Diego, Mexico. So that is why we're pursuing a statewide study that includes the availability of businesses statewide to compete in this large infrastructure project. The additional comment that Mr. Guerrero mentioned is the fact that this project is moving, forward with the award of a contract, and in completing a study now on a regional basis would assist in establishing that particular goal or that particular availability. But again, the studies are usually completed and are good for 3 years, so we hope the consultant will keep that in consideration as they complete the study, that the availability and, of course, the evidence or inference of discrimination for improvements will be valid for at least 3 years. And by then, we will be moving forward with the project in other locations, when we will also be updating the disparity and availability plan at that time.
Okay. Next question.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Senator Price. Really had two, my name is Tate Hill from the Fresno Metro Black Chamber of Commerce. Really had two sets of questions dealt with our regional equity as it relates to communication and outreach, and then the other as it relates to compliance, and kind of getting down into some of the nuts and bolts of the program as it relates to location of where some of the pre-construction kickoff meetings will take place. How will that be determined? It creates opportunities for those small businesses and primes within that region to be connected to those opportunities. But particularly also as it relates to outreach activities. There have been very few actual business-oriented activities within the San Joaquin Valley where the project will be originating, and we're deeply concerned about the outreach to minority and small businesses within the region. Particularly because there are a low number of DBE certified within the region. Just for example, in Fresno, there's only about 150 DBEs within that region, even though there's a large, over 26,000 minority businesses. So we're really making we submitted a letter to your office about recommendations about how to increase participation around DBE outreach by connecting and supporting minority chambers and associations. Also, maybe expanding that outreach to non-DBE minority businesses through those trade associations and chambers. And then the other set of questions that we had really relates to the compliance and oversight of the DBE process. One, as relates to how the compliance officer would be selected, what criteria would be set forth in selecting that individual as far as their experience and so forth, particularly as it relates to DBE implementation, successful DBE implementation, not just good faith efforts. And then as it relates to access and transparency to the federal reporting of the DBE reports that the high-speed rail will present, and making sure that's available to the public and that we would have access to comment within that federal review period. So really our questions are concerns around compliance as it relates to DBE, but then more importantly around regional equity within the outreach activities.
Okay. Thank you. Any response? One, about the outreach efforts, and two, about compliance, putting some teeth in the compliance.
Senator, I'll speak to the outreach efforts. And I think for many of the folks that are here today, we're at our last board meeting where the board directed our communications director to present a strategy for bringing some of those activities in-house and then having smaller opportunities in targeted areas. And so he'll be presenting that plan to the board on January 12th. And then we'll see what action they take. But as you know, we had been.
And you suspect that plan includes a discussion of the outreach in some of the outlying areas as well, then, or what's the?
Yes, Central Valley and the outlying areas. Primarily, many are aware that we had gone through an RFP process for communications and outreach services. We did not award a contract. The board's direction this last meeting was for the authority to come up with a new strategy, to consider whether some of those activities could be done in-house. That was also the direction from the legislature last year through the budget process. And so we are presenting a proposal to the board on January 12th. So that's as it relates to communications and outreach, and as it relates to compliance, I'll look to Olivia for that one.
On the point of compliance, your question, Mr. Hill, was regarding the selection of the compliance officer. The authority is a small and a young agency that recently was authorized 52 positions, and so they're also looking at future growth. And one of the components is to have a state employee direct and oversee the compliance activities of not only the DBE but the workforce piece. That will be a critical component for success on this project. So it is at this time that the authority is looking to hire in-house, get an employee to do the compliance, DBE compliance in the workforce. You asked, or you mentioned earlier about the access and transparency of information. Mr. Ryan has made it part of his commitment to post the monthly utilization reports that will be submitted by the contractor on the website. So it will be accessible to anybody 24/7. And of course, we will be using that also as a ability to ensure that the contractor is aware that if there are questions by the senator or yourself about those reports, that they also be willing and able to respond to how they're going to remedy or how their own internal DBE small business officer will be rectifying those issues.
Thank you, Jill. Any other questions? And just so we can kind of keep the flow going, after you've asked the question and answered it, if you can get up and someone else can sit down, we can just sort of keep flowing.
Okay, Senator, thank you. More of a comment. First, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Henry Perea. I'm a Fresno County Supervisor, co-chair of Fresno Works, working on high-speed rail in our valley and bringing the maintenance facility to our county. We're proud and excited that construction will begin in the San Joaquin Valley this year. We know that you and your folks will be doing a lot of heavy lifting in Sacramento, and we're confident that we will all do the right thing and put California back to work. And I know there's a lot of issues and concerns that are being expressed here and have been expressed at meetings. I have been at all the meetings. We have worked very closely and continue to work closely with the authority to make sure that they meet the needs of local hire. Matter of fact, at next week's meeting in Los Angeles, Fresno Works will be presenting a local hire initiative that the FRA and high-speed rail folks feel may be something that will be of benefit and it will fit all the guidelines so that we can hire locally and of course, continue our discussion on businesses. But I think the great news about today, people have concerns and we respect that, and we know you obviously are having this hearing to hear them out, but the great news is we're having the discussion. We're putting California back to work, and I want to thank you for all your efforts in helping us do that. Sir.
Well, thank you, Mr. Supervisor, for your attendance today and for your kind words, and thank you for your leadership as well.
Thank you, Senator, for the opportunity to speak to you today. I am Cynthia Sterling, former member of the Fresno City Council, and I am here to talk to you about, first, we are hosting the San Joaquin Valley Minority Black Contractors Association, the 5th annual convention, January 18th and 19th in Fresno, California, which will allow small business, opportunity contractors, people of interest to have an opportunity to become certified, a boot camp to teach them all of the possibilities on what they can do to participate on this high-speed rail project. And we are reaching out to contractors, primes, everyone to participate, and various state and federal agencies to present to these organizations or these individuals so that they will have an opportunity to become participants. In reference to the business I represent, I am the vice chair of the San Joaquin Valley Black Minority Contractors Association and will be a part of that hosting position. But I am also a member of Morgan Business Innovations, LLC. We are DBE certified, diversity certified. We are applying and are short of our 8A certification. We are in the process of applying, we've submitted our paperwork, so we're just waiting for that information. We would like to be considered, along with the San Joaquin Valley Minority Contractors Association, to be the outreach headquarters or representative in the San Joaquin Valley. We're located between Fresno and Bakersfield with outreach up to Stockton, California. We are keeping our information, our certifications current with the High Speed Rail Authority. We have submitted them to the delegation that is behind us, and that is a part of where we'd like to be. The other and final is our area of expertise is in commodities. We would like to supply commodities for the various primes, contractors, whatever, in some type of capacity as a small business, as a DBE. We feel that for women, their opportunity to do this has not been available, and it's very difficult to break in. So we want you to know that our area of expertise is in commodities, and we're available to service in any capacity that the High Speed Rail or the authority or your organization would agree to.
Okay, well, thank you, Councilwoman, and still a very effective advocate for your cause. But she raised a very interesting issue, one that probably is on the minds of lots of folks. How do you do business? And again, this is a question I don't mind asking over and over and over again because I think it's important to focus in on. But for someone who's got commodities, wants to provide a service, what's the best way to become noticed and at least help identify opportunities that may exist?
There will be a number of opportunities for networking, and I believe that we have met the Congresswoman at a number of the events that have, Councilwoman, I apologize, at a number of the events, at the industry forums, as well as at the NISPIN sessions. The networking is essential, and getting and marketing yourself to the potential shortlisted firms will be critical. The shortlisted firms, once they are selected, will also have to host their own independent forums to ensure that they are engaging the small business community and offering them opportunities to participate. At that point in time, they will be defining what will be self-performed and what will be performed and what they were seeking in terms of small business participation in the areas. So those would be essential. We would obviously be working with them as a partner in conjunction with your different regional areas to ensure that all firms are advised and given the opportunity to participate.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Senator. I'm Colonel Michael Wells. I'm from the California Military Department and California National Guard, and we were asked to come as a participant just to discuss some of best business practices. The California Military Department has received the Governor's State Agency Restoration Recognition Award for the last 2 years, 2009, 2010 to 2011. This award recognizes the state agencies that meet or exceed small business disabled veteran enterprises. Our program actually reflects our leadership's commitment to SBDVE organizations, and we believe they added value to our programs. We believe that they have done things such as speed up our contracting services. We reduced the amount of service that was required from 6 to 8 weeks in our contracting process, and we've been able to work directly with the disabled veterans and SB to strongly support our soldiers who are deployed as well as those who are returning. And basically, we look at it as being good business for us. I would say, sir, that it didn't happen overnight. We actually made a concerted effort within our department, and it started with our contracting manager and our small business disabled veteran advocate to help in the development of our strategy. And the first year was rather difficult. It had significant efforts that was required to do coordination, and we met some resistance with that, but the results were rather startling for us. We have learned we were not implementing a lowest bid process or syndrome in many ways. Actually, what we were doing was we were getting good business practices implied, and as a result, we were getting good business services in return. And the results of our program has provided small business and disabled veterans with 93% of our construction contracts right now are going towards them. We've done it up to 60% of our service contracts this year, and overall we're meeting 16% of all services and commodities contracts that are currently. That far exceeds the current standards that are there. So in short, what I'd really say to you, sir, is that we're very proud of our small business and disabled veteran enterprise contracting program. I think on behalf of General Baldwin and the military department, we thank you for the opportunity to speak to you and to share with you some of the unique capabilities and the utilization of small businesses that the National Guard is using.
Thank you. We appreciate your service.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Gary Stevens. I'm a managing partner of a DBE certified consulting firm in the state of California. My comments would go a little longer than a couple minutes, so I want to paraphrase it. Primarily, we see a corporate culture in California that is not really conducive to minority business, and we have outlined that in a lot of our comments to date. Also, the accountability of the agency itself in terms of staff, personnel, as it applies to the statutes and regulations. Over and over again, we get excuses, and at the end of the day, we have a stack of good faith paperwork over here and no minority contracts over there. So we just thank the chair for this opportunity to share our comments, and we have more we'll share later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Yolanda Benson, representing the California Asian Pacific Chamber of Commerce. We are the agent for the Federal Department of Transportation to be working for and ensuring small business participation. So we definitely are interested in seeing strong small DVBE participation with the high-speed rail project. Obviously, we're very pleased with the 30% and would like to see that implemented, and we're watching for that implementation. And, we certainly want the the goals to be met that have been set forth. We're also interested to see that the majority of the small businesses that are going to be on this project would be California-based businesses. We care about California labor, California workers. We would like to see an emphasis that California be placed first. We've been very active with some of the discussion and some of the advisory groups, and we continue to participate. We will be participating with the business advisory group that is being put together by the authority, and we are looking forward to participating in that. We find that we want to be part of the solution. One of the things we also do is we work with businesses that if they're not quite ready for prime time, they need certification, they need additional assistance in order to be competitive for bids. We do offer that, and we do work with businesses to offer that kind of assistance. And we have a large statewide entity available to be working with all of these entities and these small businesses. So we look forward to implementation of the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Price. I'm Chris Johnson, President and CEO of the Johnson Group. We are a staffing company specializing in architecture, engineering, construction, and environmental. We are the 7th fastest growing company in Sacramento, and we're recognized nationally by Black Enterprise Magazine as one of the 40 next. My concern is that as been a DBE, UDBE certified firm for 2 years now, and when I first got that certification, every single contract I used the same energy and effort that I did to bring my company to that level as far as when I got into the DBE program. And what I noticed is the mentions of this good faith effort, it rang true. One short situation, I contacted an estimator on a Caltrans project, and I said, hey, we can provide the staff augmentation for these projects, the construction project management. He said, Chris, I really like what you have, and I could definitely see that in this project. But you know what? It bids in a couple of days. I think I'm just going to go ahead and good faith effort this one. And that kind of rang true for me as far as the situation, as far as this good faith effort. I don't want to just come in here and provide.
Just stop right there. How would we respond to this whole good faith effort piece now? What's this new program going to do differently, or is it going to be the same kind of shuffle that's possible on good faith?
Again, Senator Price, I point back to the design builders provision in their submittal of their small business performance plan. That is the good faith effort, basically, that they will be demonstrating to us through the life of the contract. What are they going to do to achieve the overall goal on the contract? We will not be assessing every particular contract that they subcontract. We will not be evaluating every subcontract that they issue under the design builder, but we will be reviewing them to determine what are your efforts to meet the 30% goal. We will be reviewing it again under the Business Advisory Council to determine you are 60% complete. What is your attainment? So it is, again, contingent upon the design builder's small business performance plan and their consultant that they're going to hire to achieve that goal.
So no concern that the contractors could drag things out, till the end, or fail to. You mentioned that breach of contract would be a remedy if there's failure to comply, but that usually happens at the very end and after the fact. And it's. Is there anything? Are we proposing in the business plan anything different that's going to allay the concerns of small businesses that this good faith effort is really a sham? Is there anything new? I'm just asking, is there anything new in the program?
Again, we're referring to a design build project where we will be, entering into a contract with the design builder, who then will be entering into multiple subcontract agreements with other firms. The components that are in the small business performance plan by the design builder will pass down to their subs. So it will be, again, incumbent upon the design builder to ensure compliance and rolling that information up to the authority to ensure that they are meeting their goal. It will not be what's considered the traditional award every contract based on either meeting a race-conscious goal or demonstrating a good faith effort. So we are not using that procurement method in the selection of the design builder, nor are we inviting the design builder to use such strict and structured methods in meeting the overall goal.
You have one more comment?
Yeah, I have one more comment. I just didn't want to provide a problem, but I also have a solution.
Great.
Remove the good faith effort. DVBE.
I assume you approve? Is that what the clap is about?
On July 28, 2009, DVB was successful in AB 4X21, which removed the good faith effort for state contracts. So there was no more good faith effort, and they not only did the state, they gave a reason why. They had a frequently asked questions document, and it said the reason why the state removed the good faith effort. One was the primary reason to eliminate the good faith effort included the following: to eliminate costs for bidders to perform and document good faith effort, to eliminate costs to the state departments relating to the review of good faith effort, to increase the DVBE participation in state contracts by making participation of DVBEs a mandatory requirement for a DVB goal included in the solicitation, and to enhance the state's department's ability to meet the legislative mandated and annual 3% DVBE goal. So if this was successful and it's worked for the state as far as removing that goal, and we all see the issues with the good faith effort, why can't we just go ahead and remove it in this situation, on this contract?
Good question. Any response?
The project is under the cooperative agreement with the Federal Railroad Administration that we are following in their administration of the small business program. At this point, we are operating under the best practices of 49 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 26, which is known as the DBE regulations. The Federal Railroad Administration has indicated that we can use, again, the best practices. We use the term good faith effort, but we are not restricted to those 9 particular steps that are identified in the Appendix A of the Code of Regulations. So clearly understand the desire of the audience to remove any reference to good faith effort or remove any condition of award if good faith efforts are made, but that directive would have to come directly from Federal Railroad Administration and or Congress.
And I guess ultimately the policy decision made by the board to remove that. But you are sensitive to the concerns around that.
And again, as I mentioned, my passion to ensure small businesses get opportunity was also in the innovation of this the program plan that speaks to really holding the design builder to make meet the goal and not make efforts to demonstrate good faith efforts. We want to avoid that completely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Senator Price. My name is Troy Hightower, and I'm from the Kern Council of Governments. Kern Council of Government in Bakersfield, California. And I'd like to applaud you for having this hearing and encourage you to have more. I think that this is a big project that will require exchange of information and through all methods available. Kern County supports high-speed rail as the best solution for our future transportation needs. We have a high-speed rail steering committee that meets weekly. The small business stakeholders in that committee have a question on the small business plan, which we all commend the authority for the development of the plan as well as the governor's support of the plan. But the question is related to the use of local business. Okay. There is some reference to preference for low business, but we have yet to find a definition of what local business really means. So our question is, how would they define local business, and what, if any, preference there would be for local business?
Okay, that's a good question. In response, you kind of give us a focus in on local business, what that means, how is it defined, and what role is local businesses going to play?
Well, at this time, the program does follow best practices of Title 49 CFR Part 26 that does not have a local business preference statutory authority to implement any component to speak to local businesses. The program at this time speaks to small business participation, which the outreach and the design builder will be doing, obviously, local business outreach to ensure that they have the firms to compete and to perform the work. But in this specific plan at this time, there is no local business preference. Now, on a state-funded, strictly state-funded program, there can be a small business set-aside with local preference in that component. But on the federal assisted project at this time, there is not a definition for local business.
Senator, I would encourage you and maybe the authority to look into that further and see what opportunities there are to
I did. We will look at that. If you have some specific ideas, let me encourage anyone, if you have some specific thoughts or ideas in terms of this regulation, of course, or anything else, please don't hesitate to contact my office. You can reach me directly. If you can't reach me, you can reach our select committee consultant, and Lisa Martin here to my left, who is always available and accessible. But I would encourage you, if you have some thoughts and ideas, unable to express them today or unwilling, please feel free to contact the office, contact our office directly.
I don't have any specific recommendations. I'm not an expert in that field. I think it may involve some kind of distance, but in my opinion, it should be relative to where the work is being done.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I had some legislation that spoke to that. I think there's some precedents in projects around the country, some rail projects, light rail projects, certainly in L.A. There's a local hiring component, and we think that there are some opportunities to kind of focus the benefits, if you will, to local communities in ways that we haven't before. And I agree with you, we should be doing that.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
And if I could talk on that issue.
Back on that.
I'm Leanne Eager. I'm with the Economic Development Corporation serving Fresno County. And I know we've been working with your office on that local hire issue. One of the issues, obviously, is the federal money. And we have been working on getting together language that talks about not necessarily local hire, but hire in disadvantaged areas, which certainly at the beginning, Fresno County and the whole Central Valley would comply with those issues. So I know we've sent that information to your office, and yes, so hopefully we can work on that going forward. The other thing I wanted to say was I wanted to acknowledge that the High Speed Rail Authority has been really working on outreach. In September of this last year, the Economic Development Corporation and the High Speed Rail Authority together hosted a small business industry forum in Fresno, and the way that came about was a group of us went to the Los Angeles Industry Forum, and there were 2,500 people there who were interested in working on the high-speed rail, and most of them were from Southern California. And when we looked at, gosh, it's going to start in the Central Valley, we really need to get our small businesses, our local businesses interested in working on the rail and giving them information about that. So we called the High Speed Rail Authority and said, we really need to look at small businesses that are in the Central Valley that can work on this project. And they said, absolutely. And so we put together this small business industry forum, and 900 people showed up who were looking at how we can get involved, how we can contract. The state of California was there doing workshops on how you can be a contractor, but we need to do more of that. And one of the things that we've been working on at our agency is talking to small businesses, certainly minority-owned businesses, working with our local chambers. One of the issues that keeps coming back is one that we've heard here is how do we ensure that those prime contractors don't bring all their own people here to work on this project, and all of us in California who are desperately depending on these jobs aren't left out. So, these local hire, these preferences are really the most important thing in ensuring that our minority-owned businesses, our women-owned businesses, our small businesses, our local businesses get a piece of this, because finally it's our turn to be able to work on a large project like this.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments? Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Darlene Marr, and I represent the Council of Asian American Business Associations, more than one associations. I'm part of the associations that we built the part of the expansion of the airport in San Francisco, Oakland, and some of our professionals have also worked on BART and other things. So we are highly qualified to voice our view. One of the things I want to emphasize is once the disparity study is completed, we request a race-conscious DBE program immediately without going back to the board to modify the original program. Number two, the 30% goal is very good, but I think it also should include the dollar amount, the type of business utilized, the number of small contracts, and the new businesses created, as well as the number of jobs. Too often we hear how many jobs have been created, but not how many businesses have been created. Three, okay, I'd like to hear something in the program about mentorship like Caltrans, where they take a week part of a subject of a business owner, whether it's finance or audits or whatever, and they mentor that program. So mentorship is, I like to see a part of that, as well as the definition of micro-business. San Francisco City and County has a program, micro-business, and we do set aside and make sure each department follow their goals. So we need strict implementation on that. Plus, I like to see that no one person oversees the whole project. I believe a small business community with leaders and interest parties should be represented in this committee and issue reports. I'd like to see also available funds for specific training in order for a small firm to be HR, high-speed rail ready. All right, you talk about corporate ready, public ready. Too often our small business do not get the training that they need to succeed in our economy, our national economy, or even global. Furthermore, the modification for change orders or anything affecting price or something affecting a small business enterprise should be audited. Remember reports from the last hearing in Los Angeles, how change order and then people are not being paid, and by the time they try to fight for it, it's all gone. So we should make more of a modification and more strict attention to these type of practices. Thank you very much, and congratulate on a job well done.
Thank you. You made one comment about about micro businesses, and I think that was part of the presentation. I did have some legislation last year that talked about including micro businesses, and we're identifying a micro business less than 25 employees, an average income of $33.5 million or less, and that's a lot of our businesses, right?
Right.
Can you comment again on the micro business component in the business plan and how you see?
Micro businesses are inclusive of the definition.
That's all part of that 30%, though. There's
Yes,
no separate breakout for.
Right.
But you do identify micro businesses
as being a part of that overall goal, as a central target, correct. And it is very clear that it is a large representation of the availability of firms to participate on this project, without a doubt.
Any thoughts other than just sort of referencing include micro businesses? I mean, what?
The performance plan that the design builders will be submitting will have to outline their outreach and approaches and strategies to ensure that micro businesses, along with other small businesses and disadvantaged businesses and disabled veteran businesses, are in fact have an active, meaningful, viable role on their project. So micro businesses will be reviewed equally to all other groups that are being requested to participate in this project.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'd like to suggest perhaps there's a separate goal for micro business, okay? Because if we're looking at the state of California and the businesses involved, we need to have a further study instead of putting in a program and say, oh yeah, we should have set a goal for micro business. Hindsight.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Mr. Jordan.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Senator. And I really want to thank you on behalf of APAC, the Associated Professionals and Contractors, and of all the people here today. And thank you for the bills that you have presented addressing the issues that I've heard today. And I'd like to say maybe before my comments is that I guess we have two visions. One is some of us see a train streaking across the desert, and the rest of us, mostly in this room, see contracts and jobs. And I think that's basically why we're here. and you've given us the opportunity to voice this. I've heard many issues here, and I think that all of these issues can be addressed, pretty much. And the reason why I think so, and I don't really agree all the way with the authority, I think they're taking too much on themselves.
You think more should be put on the contractor, for example, or what do you mean?
Beg your pardon?
You mean, do you think more pressure should be put, more responsibility put on the contractor?
Absolutely. That is the issue. Because this is not a bid. This is not a bid. This is a selection process. And when you have a selection process and you have a selection board, then that contractor, that design bid contractor or design build contractor must come in the door, and he can address all of the issues that are presented here today if the authority meticulously detail what they're looking for. And if he doesn't address them, he does not get selected. Simple as that. I mean, because it is a bid. And so all I'm saying is that you can have the design build contractor is not regulated by no 209 or anything else. They're private enterprise. They can do what they want to do. Okay? And so if the design build contractor comes through the door and he has local business, he has minority business, he can have it broken down by ethnicity. And he can have all of those things and present it to the authority and say, here's my presentation. And the best value can be selected. And it's simple as that, to me. Thank you.
Any comments on the simplicity of it?
We don't disagree. That is our approach. And in terms of the responsiveness criteria, even in the early release of the request for qualifications and shortlisting the firms, there's 15 points associated with their responsiveness to the SB experience and program and commitment. So right up front, that is a major component of the evaluation process and criteria. And the transfer of responsibility, significant responsibility to ensure success to the design builder will be definitively outlined in the RFP, the request for proposal, once the shortlisted firms are identified. In conjunction with the evaluation of those firms, they will have to demonstrate their past experience and success in working with the small minority business community in former projects, as well as what their approach is going forward in meeting their commitments on this project.
Excuse me, my other part, then I wanted to say, then it is a matter of contract compliance. They've already signed the contract. This is what they do. If they don't meet that, then they can be penalized or whatever. The second part, quickly, is that the existing $1 billion worth of contracts that are out there, they have task orders. All those task orders have not been issued. And the authority can stop and issue some of those task orders. I mean, you have surveying, you have all kinds, you have real estate. You have many, many aspects that can be done, not only in this corridor, but along the other corridors. And the authority can just simply stop and say, okay, I'm going to get a certain percentage, and I'm going to do this. They can do that.
Okay, any comment on the contracts outstanding? I made some reference to that in my comments, I thought, earlier.
Yeah, we wanted
clarification on that?
Absolutely. With regards to the existing contracts, our money, our records indicate that we've expended about $58.6 million. And what I would need to do is get a number of the awarded amount.
That's the information you'll get back to me?
Exactly, and I'll get back to you on that. Right. As I indicated earlier, I don't believe it's the $1 billion we're talking about, but we'll get you an exact number and we can show you the analysis.
Well, yeah, but the point is it possible to impose these more compliant requirements on existing contractors on the task orders that have not been performed yet? How can we?
Yes. I mean, there are
Guess
terms
what?
and conditions. Yes, it is possible. Yes, there are terms and
Are we
conditions.
doing it? Are we doing it? Is that part of the plan?
We are doing that as part of the plan, and we are sending out documents to communicate with our existing contractors to get an understanding of what is currently being done and to share our plan with them as to what we expect them to do in going forward. So we're in the process of collecting that data from our existing vendors.
Thank you.
Yes, good morning. I'm going to be brief, but I just want to make a couple comments. First thing I want to do, my name is Marvin Dean, and I'm with the San Joaquin Valley Black Contractors Association and Coalition. I must not say anything without thanking two people. First, I want to thank, the reason I wanted to sit next to our chairman, Fred, he didn't mention it, but Fred represents APAC, which is a group of broad base of trade and trade association members, Asians, Latinos, African Americans, women, all of us. And I want to commend them because APAC, you know, filed the complaint with the FRA that required the high-speed rail from that letter they received September the 15th, gave them 60 days to do certain things to include us because of the federal funds. And I'm going to give the high-speed rail staff behind us the benefit of the doubt because I think that the high-speed rail governing board, all the way down through his executive staff and his team, understand the seriousness of what we're talking about here today. The second one I want to thank before we get started is you, Senator Price, Colonel Price. I must do that, and I must ask that this is not the first time you stay engaged. Because this project's going to break ground before the end of the year because of those federal funds. There ought to be continuous monitoring and follow through to see if everybody's going to do what they're going to do. Now, some of the things that they talked about before I get into my closing remarks is some of the conversations were about potentially local higher participation. People talk about the process of the problem and all that. But I want to also talk about something that was in part of the ERR process that we had to comment. A lot of us in these environmental justice community, which is low-income communities of color, we filed a comment to say, how are you going to, as this rail coming through these environmental justice community, what are you going to do to mitigate the impacts, and that's jobs and all of the things we're talking about. So I think if they use those environmental justice communities along the right-of-way, which is primarily communities of color, they can go in and tailor to address those high pocket areas of unemployment as a mitigation that's going to affect those people for being dispersed. So I think there's going to be some things done if we get creative about that, like the Central Freeway was. The other thing I want to say is that I've been following this thing since Jim Acosta when he was in the Assembly, when they even talked about creating the bonds and creating the high-speed rail project. So this is not something that just started. It's 10 years along the process. I've been a major supporter. But what has happened, and why most of us as African-American descendants are concerned, there's not one African-American team consultants on all of these consulting contracts that's been let for the environmental work. Not one. And I have not seen, other than when we were in Sacramento, that last time our group APAC met with the high-speed rail, Van Ark and others, Van Ark was able to present one African-American person. And I'm okay with that, but he was able to do one, and that's a young black woman that was hired in the accounting department. That's the only black person I've seen on staff anywhere in this process. And I've followed every meeting and been very engaged in it. We're saying as supporters of this high-speed rail project, we need to be included. Now, I believe we've got everybody's attention because there's a lot of opposition to stop this project. So what we're trying to do now is galvanize all of the interests that support this project that typically wouldn't be able to sit down together. That's unions, that's prime contractors, that's folks that don't normally agree, that we can all agree on one thing: we want this project. Now, that creates an interesting interesting situation for us if we can find a way for us as the small business community that want to be included to get ourselves together, irrespective of what the high-speed rail does or don't do. We get ourselves together, and then we stay in contact with this process, and we make ourselves available. And I believe if we do that, because the primary concern I see, because a lot of the stuff that they're dealing with the high-speed rail was prior to the current executive director, the CEO there now, Van Ark. Personally, I think Van Ark's a good man. Personally, I think he's a professional, and he's trying to clean up a lot of the mistakes that was there before him. Their number one challenge is to get this project, to get all the approvals out of the way, to get this project under construction before those federal funds have to be obligated. That's a miles challenge that they have. So I believe if we as a community that want to be included can galvanize, get ourselves ready, work with the primes, work with the authority, that we're all moving in the same direction, we all have the same common agenda. We want this project done and we're going to be included. And I think if we do that and we present these opportunities, then we will be included. And one of the things that we're doing to get that going right now is this conference that we're going to have in January, that 19th. It's very, very important, the 18th and 19th. And I put a challenge out to everybody in this room, if you're thinking about high-speed rail.
Going to be?
That's going to be in downtown Fresno, the center of the ground zero, and it's going to be at the Radisson Hotel. We're going to have the night before on the 18th. It's going to be at the downtown club. We're introducing something called the San Joaquin Valley Construction Academy. Industry people are coming together and saying, irrespective of what others will do, we're going to get our people ready. And then we're going to introduce some of our partners. And the main conference is going to be on the 19th, and we're asking the high-speed rail to work with us, because we had a commitment from the chair on down, that they help us get all the prime consultants that's got these contracts right now that you hear about clawback, that money hasn't been obligated, to get them there. We're asking, some of them's already confirmed today, and we're also asking the design build teams to be there. So we can bring all the players in the room. The prime contractors got to meet this 30% goal, the small business community, the unions there, get everybody in the room. We're going to have, on the 19th, we're going to kick off with a meet and greet breakfast. And then we have vendors fairs, and it's going to be an all-day conference. And I would put a challenge, because this thing is moving so fast. If you haven't already lined up whose team you're going to be or how you're going to be fit into this process, it's going to be too late when the shovel hits the ground. Mm-hmm. So we got to have all this stuff lined up now, and that's what we're trying to do. So we're not waiting on anybody, but we want to partner with everybody. And I say one of the things that aid us in doing those partnership is having hearings like this and keeping the spotlight on this thing, because it keeps the pressure on everybody to do the right thing. Right. And I'm saying that I understand, and I don't default to high-speed rail, because they have a challenge unbelievable to get this project ready, to put shovels in the ground before the end of the year to meet those, to get that $3 billion federal funds. So all I'm saying is, from this, if they're willing to meet us in good faith, work with us, we can help them. Because some of us that are in this community, small business people that want to be involved, we have unique experiences we can bring to help them, to help get some of these other smaller firms that are not ready to go. Because there's a lot of the smaller firms are not ready for public sector work. So we have a program to address that. And then many of the folks behind me in this room, minority firm, they're ready to do business. All we need to do is now negotiate with these primes and develop those relationships so we can have long-term successful teams and projects going forward. Because a lot of times, and it's not, I don't fault primes, a lot of times they're more comfortable with the people they know. They're not used to with a lot of minority participation. So we want to develop those relationships early on so that this thing can be successful. And you, as some of you may not know, but the senator knows, we've invited him, and hopefully he would be able to find the time to also grace us to come. And I want to appreciate you, because you did come last year. It wasn't last year, it was earlier, I think 4 months ago. We had a stakeholder meeting. You and Johnny came. So again, I just want to commend you, Senator. And man, I tell you, I can't see us not being included if you keep this kind of pressure on this thing. And the high-speed rail folks behind us take this as not as criticism, but as a challenge for us to work together in a cooperative way, because it's going to benefit all of us. So use the experience that's in this room. And we're just crying out because we're saying we want to be included. Okay. We support this thing.
Good.
But we want to be included too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership on this issue.
Good afternoon. I'm Jack Toney, and I'm the director of the Federal Technology Center's Procurement Assistance Program. And first, I'd just like to thank you, Senator, for all you do to help California small businesses. And that's our mission, too, is to help small businesses in California grow and develop. And what we do, we're a small not-for-profit, and we provide free classes and free counseling to the small businesses on any aspect of contracting with the government. Whether it's help with certifications or help with proposals, we do that to help the small business. And I just wanted to reiterate, I know you know what we do, but I wanted to reiterate that to all those that are here, and that if we can help them, let us know.
Good.
Thank you.
You're right. It's a great service at the state and federal levels, and it's the kind of technical assistance that I think many businesses can benefit from. And so, thank you again for your efforts.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Senator.
I think we've got two more questions, right? The last two persons out there, so we can try to wrap up by 3.
I will be brief.
Yes, sir.
My name is Bobby Bivens, and I'm president of the Stockton branch NAACP and the Economic Development Chair for the California Conference of State Branches of the NAACP. And for the record, we do want to express our concern related to the DBE inclusion, but more importantly, the inclusion of African American businesses, which historically doesn't take place without pressure being put on public agencies. We don't feel that to this point the FRA or High-Speed Rail Authority has made a legitimate or good faith effort for the inclusion of African American businesses in this project up to date. We'd like to see that improved, and we know that you're working to make that happen. Secondly, the question of the frequency of monitoring of the projects, as the gentleman said earlier, if there's not monitoring and if there's not sanction, then the contractors will not do it out of the goodness of their heart. And we, again, will be excluded and miss out on this great business opportunity coming to the state of California. Thirdly, on the organization chart that's on this new proposal, I didn't see anywhere in there where they had a contract compliance monitoring unit, although it spoke to it, but there's not any unit shown anywhere on the organizational chart, and certainly it should be at the highest level, reporting to the director or to the rail authority to ensure that compliance does take place and that it is legitimate compliance and not what we've been having in the past. Additionally, the question of why are we not using the disparity in utilization study that Caltrans did a few years ago, because certainly it spoke to the fact that there was a lack of black businesses having business opportunities, and we do believe that if that's usable in this case, it may not be fresh, but it could be updated rather than doing a whole new disparity in utilization study. And last of all, on the small business development centers that function under the auspices of the community colleges with the direction of Minority Business Development Agency from the Department of Commerce, they have not been a friend to promoting black business, not in the Central Valley. I will say that for sure. So the small business development centers may be there, they are listed in here, but they have not been an entity that has been about promoting or seeing the utilization of black businesses on public works contracts, at least in the Central Valley. I'll speak to that. In Los Angeles, I'm sure it's a little different. In the Bay, it's a little different. But in fact, in the other areas, outlining areas, they are not functioning as a friend to black businesses. And I'd like to go on record representing my branch and the state conference saying that.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Any response to his concern?
Yeah, I mean, as it relates to the organization,
yes.
What we're currently doing within the authority is I'm serving as the liaison directly to the CEO, so the small business liaison. I have a team of folks internally, HR manager who helps me with EE&O issues, Title VI issues, and I have a contracts manager who helps me with the procurement and the contract side of it. And I have the Padilla team. So we have put together a team that can address these issues.
And you got lots of business cards to pass out today?
We do. Yeah. And we are seeking some additional funding through the FRA grant and restructuring the authority to address that workload.
Okay. Thank you. Why don't you guys, sidebar after is fine. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator Price, for your continued work on small business procurement here in the state of California, and thank you, Ms. Martin, for supporting the senator. My name is Tara Lynn Gray. My firm is Yadari Enterprises. We are certified small by DGS, so we are certified DBE, and California's CMAS holder in information technology. I have an idea. I'd like to think outside the box for a moment and suggest that the compensation of those that are employed by HSRA be tied directly to small business, specifically micro business utilization. I think that folks ought to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. One of the ways to ensure that we have compliance is to tie compensation to that. Secondly, I'd like to suggest that of the 34% spend that Mr. Ryan said was spent with SMBs, that the micro enterprise spend be calculated and that number be used as a benchmark number, and that all of the performance from this period forward be measured against that benchmark. I'd also like to suggest, again, thinking outside of the box, that a small business can indeed be a prime contractor. So perhaps there could be some unbundling of contracts, and that small businesses not be forced to operate under the auspices that are set by prime contractors, who oftentimes make higher margins by, frankly, messing over their small business subcontractors. And then lastly, I'd like to seek clarification on the numbers that Mr. Ryan quoted during his opening address. He, again, going back to the 34% spend with small businesses, when asked where that spend was, the first category was information technology, second was professional services. All we have talked about today is design build. And as an information technology firm, when I am doing sales, and specifically into high-speed rail, Caltrans, I'm always told that IT is handled inside, and that they primarily do outreach for and look for DBEs in construction, design build, architectural and engineering services. So I would like to know how that spend is primarily with information technology firms when there really is no outreach done to information technology firms. Thank you.
Okay. Good question. Do we have a good answer?
Yeah, I mean, I would be more than happy to sit down with you and talk about that. The authority has one IT position in-house, and those contracts were let several years ago, and the authority went from 6 employees to now 54, but on the other side there's about 500 consultants that interface with the authority via email and other software applications, and so the need to contract out was there. And so you're right, many state departments have that in-house, but ours was the other way around. It was very small in-house and then externally contracting. So I'm more than happy to talk with you more about that.
Great.
And can I add that it's actually as a result of Senator Price's bill a couple of years ago of increasing the small business option from the 100,000 to 250. The authority does use that option quite often and makes those contacts directly with small businesses and disabled veterans. So that is one of the tools that the authority is using more aggressively. And as you said, the floor is 34, and we all nodded our head. You're right, because the authority recognizes that is one of the best options that they have to procure directly with small and disadvantaged business or disabled veteran businesses.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Good afternoon, Senator Price. My name is Larry Edmondson, and I'm with the Southern California Consortium Group, a group of contractors and trade groups. We were involved in the Century Freeway, and similar problems evolved during those years. The problem that comes up frequently is in the selection process is the bonding and the financial requirements. We're prepared to mitigate that with those parties that are participating within us. I think that it may be helpful if there were an advisory group of some of the participants here, or major groups that would be able to make recommendations directly to high-speed rail.
I think there is an advisory. Is there a citizens advisory or business advisory group?
There is a business
advisory. And how can one become involved in that or?
We're beginning to form that group. We've been taking applications, and more than happy to take your name and contact information.
Okay. So if you have an interest in the business advisory group that is being formed, you can contact the agency directly or any representative here today.
Okay.
Or our office, and we'll forward it on.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Last question. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Senator Price.
Hi.
Thank you so much for giving us this forum as a small business, especially to come and be able to voice our opinions and comments issues that we have in this industry. I think everyone kind of mentioned all of my concerns as a small business. My name is Elizabeth Norris. My husband and I own a construction company. His name is Michael Baines. We are currently DBE certified, and we also work on rail projects currently now. And just because of that, I have a couple of concerns that have come up as a result of working on the BART project in the Bay Area. One of the issues that I know that as small businesses we all have as a small business is bonding capacity, and I know that's been brought up, so I'd like for that to be addressed in some way, because that is a way that we are oftentimes cut out of the process. Secondly is quick pay. I'll give you just a quick example of having an opportunity to be paid a lot faster than 60, 90 days down the road. And the reason for that is we don't have the cash flow as a small business to be able to sustain $100,000 that I have to pay out for labor force in a 30-day period, which has happened. And I just can't be able to sustain that for 60, 90 days down the line. So it would really be helpful if there was some type of quick pay or some type of process in place for small businesses to be able to get paid quicker than the 60, 90-day process. The other thing that the young lady just mentioned is unbundling of packages. I call it break out the packages. I think it's really important that we break out packages for small businesses as well. These are just the small business concerns that I have as a small business in this industry. The other issue is that the good faith, and that's already been mentioned here, the good faith efforts. For us, what we've seen is good faith is a justification for us to be cut out in some way. The good faith is we tried to find some qualified contractors and we couldn't find them, and so they do the paperwork and that's that. There are plenty of qualified contractors out there. We've heard this over and over again. If there was some way that there could be some type of pool of DBEs that you could pull from, that when they come back with this, I'm just trying to come up with some type of suggestion. You mentioned let's come up with solutions. There's got to be a solution. They're going to come back with that. They always do. There's got to be some type of solution to that, to whatever it is that they come. So let's anticipate what the issues are going to be and already have solutions in place to deal with those issues. And one of them is not enough qualified. And I can already see that's going to happen. The other thing is UDBEs. The gentleman mentioned that the Caltrans already has, I don't think there was an answer about that, already did a disparity study, and that is the reason why underutilized DBE is a new designation now, because there is a disparity with blacks, women, Asians, and so forth, and American Indians. So is there going to be a component also in this particular, is there going to be any consideration for a UDBE set aside as well in the high-speed rail?
Okay. A couple of questions. UBE, issue about the good faith, about bonding. That was a question raised earlier, bonding, insurance, and unbundling. Any comments, thoughts about those as we wrap up this portion of our hearing?
And thank you for identifying those components. I'll address the disparity study because it was asked earlier. We did review the Caltrans disparity study. That study was completed in July of 2007, and it used data from 2002 to 2006. We determined that that data was outdated, as Caltrans is also in the current process of updating their disparity study because it is recognized as being outdated, not only on the contracting that had occurred in the past, but the availability of minority women and disadvantaged businesses. Mm-hmm. So the authority has taken on the position that we want fresh data, we want current data that's reflective of the current market conditions, and of course reflective of the type of work that the authority is going to be pursuing. So that's the reason why the Caltrans study, although considered, will not be utilized in the establishment of this program. The other has to do with the unbundling, the bonding, and insurance. I think that we answered the
A
bonding.
little louder, please, Ms. Fonseca.
Oh, I'll let Pat answer the bonding and insurance. I think we addressed that in our talking points.
And the quick pay.
And the quick pay, in fact, I'll answer the quick pay. And actually, Senator Price, you're referring to a quick pay process that is used under the federal contracting procedures in being able to be paid within 10 days or so receipt of the invoice. I was sharing that particular prompt payment with Pat Padilla, as a matter of fact, yesterday as an alternative, an approach that we could use or potentially use not only with the design builder, but something that perhaps the senator will want to introduce in future legislation to engage in having a more prompter pay than the red stamp pay that is on each invoice. So I do want to leave that one point to the senator in consideration of legislation. And I'll let Pat address the breaking down the projects and the bonding and insurance.
So as just to wrap up on the prompt payment provisions, we do have provisions of prompt payment in compliance with the Public Contract Code, which in fact are more stricter than the federal Title 49 CFR Part 26 requirements. The critical aspect of that is monitoring and compliance, which this program will in fact do. So that is the difference. In addition to that, the insurance and bonding is essential, and we know that is essential to ensure that you have the capacity to even bid a project. So this is one area that we are currently developing, and it's in that formation stage. We are looking at public agencies as well as private sector companies that are currently offering very successful programs, and we are meeting with them to determine how we move forward. In conjunction with that, we have requested from the Federal Railroad Administration additional funding to assist in affording those resources and making those resources available. And we're waiting on formal response to them. But I see this as a very critical, the authority sees this as a very essential and critical area to ensure you have the financial capacity and bonding. In terms of unbundling, without a doubt, the design builder will need to unbundle to meet the 30% goal. And will that be a part of the evaluation process when we are reviewing their performance plan? Most definitely. And understand that they are the design builders, and we are talking about design build quite a bit today because of the fact that that's the largest project that will be awarded in the near future and will be a multi-mega project designation. So there will be a number of opportunities for unbundling, and they will be letting a number of subsequent packages out after the award of the design build that they will have to identify for small businesses in order to meet those goals.
Great.
All right, thank you. Let's give a hand to the California High-Speed Rail Authority for their presentation, for their willingness to answer questions, and I think for their commitment to try to make sure that this is the most inclusive public works project in the history not only of our country but certainly our state. I want to thank those of you that are in attendance. We're in attendance today, participated in this informational hearing, again, one in a series of hearings from the Select Committee on Procurement. We take this project and opportunities that impact small businesses, minority businesses, women-owned businesses very, very, very seriously. And it's your participation, it's your involvement, it's your engagement that really does make a difference. So keep your eyes on the prize. The deadline for comments to this particular plan is the 17th, 16th, 17th. And so make sure that you weigh in with a call, a letter, a fax. If you're representing your own business, representing an organization, representing a special interest group, your comments are important and necessary. And so please feel free to contact the agency directly, contact our office, consider me your senator as we work through these issues, trying to create the kind of atmosphere and environment that's going to be critical. As we talk about growing California, small businesses play a significant role in that, minority businesses a significant role in that, and I want you to know that you've got advocates here in Sacramento, and I think you certainly have the ear of the agency as we move forward and doing all we can do to make sure that we're taking care of business. And so again, thank you, and this meeting is adjourned.